Today we're talking about Joe Hisaishi. Let's go. So recently I hit 10,000 subscribers. So I decided to remake my favorite video on this channel. The last time I made this video, I asked you this. When you hear this chord progression, what do you think? What do you feel? But this time I'm gonna tell you how I interpret it. When I hear this chord progression, I hear tribulation with a hint of what's to come. But then you might ask, well, what's to come? I'll tell ya. Not only do I hear a resolution, I hear an encapsulation of Miyazaki's cinematography. I think I just made up a word. I hear beauty, wonder, and adventure. I feel that the sky is not only the limit, but where we are currently being transported to. Yeah. Music's crazy like that. And that's why I'm kind of disappointed that Joe Hisaishi isn't a household name the same way Miyazaki's is. It's sort of the musical composer's dilemma, isn't it? Whenever I tell my friends, oh, I love Joe Hisaishi, they usually say, who? And I say, the guy who makes the music for Ghibli movies. And they say, oh, which is in itself innocuous. But when that conversation happens over and over again, you become more acutely aware of how undervalued he is by the general public. But before we continue gushing about Hisaishi, let's talk about that chord progression again.
So there are a lot of ways that this chord can be tackled. Most of the ways are ways in which a majority of you probably wouldn't understand, and that's not talking shit. It's just that it's using a lot of complicated music theory tactics and techniques. So for all the advanced people in there, it's using an A sus2 chord over F, and it goes to a C sus2 chord over E. Right? But for all the noobs in the audience, it goes from a 4 chord to a 1 chord. And let me explain that to you. And we're going to use the easiest scale, the C scale that probably all of you know. It's this one right here. It's all the white keys, you know, it's easy mode. There are 7 degrees in a scale, in a major scale. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it goes back to 1. What Hisaishi did here, it was basically a more complicated version of the 4-1 chord progression. So when I say 4-1, I mean it goes from the 4th scale degree, which is F over here, back to the 1. So like there are variations that can be played, like F major 7 to C major 7, and it goes like you can hear the similarities to what he does in the chord progression that we're talking about. And then I'm gonna play the Hisaishi chords. Like it sounds similar, but you know, Hisaishi just sounds so sexy.
And why does it sound so sexy? That's because it has something that the major 7 chord progressions didn't have. Inherent tension. Tension is when notes are really close to each other. You see how the major 7s are spaced out, but the Hisaishi chords are all up close and personal? That's tension. And it does exactly what the name implies. It creates a sense of uneasiness. The tension can act as both a catalyst to anticipation to a resolution and a supplement to said resolution. I mean, anyone can do this, but the way it's incorporated creates this unprecedented sense of beauty, and that's why I hold Hisaishi in such high regard. This isn't to say that Hisaishi is a one-trick pony or anything like that, actually, it's quite the opposite. But this is just my favorite progression of his, and between me and you, I think it's his favorite too. Check this out. This is what we call a motif. But what is a motif actually?
A motif is a piece of music that appears in a film again and again. For example, the theme from Up It goes like this. You get the point.
The beauty of motifs is that they can be played however you want while still creating this inherent narrative through line because it's the same fucking melody. You know what that means? It means you can play it fast or slow, on a joyful clarinet, or a sad French horn, or it can be played in a moment of peaceful introspection. You know, kind of like this. You know, I always thought it was sort of interesting that composers could tacitly trademark a certain chord progression to the point that if I hear it in soundtracks that weren't composed by Hisaishi, I still go, that's the Hisaishi chord progression going, which is why I consider it to be his most effective chord progression to date. Of all the music that he's made, this is the one that sticks with me the most. I mean, hey, maybe it's because I watched Spirited Away over 30 times as a kid on my crappy old Walkman. It would explain a lot. And sure, there's probably some obscure science behind it, even more convoluted than the music theory that I was talking about earlier, but this sheer sense of awe that it inspires is just undeniable. This particular motif, along with countless others, is why I consider him to be Miyazaki's right-hand man. And more importantly, dare I say it, an irreplaceable legend.